This is what I call a do as I say, not as I did presentation, and or another title could be everything I wished I had known about as a caregiver when I was a caregiver. Please feel free to take pictures of slides, anything like that that you want to do. We're going to start with a caregiving story. It's my story, but I want you to think about your story as I tell my story, just like we did with Dr. Manning as he stood and talked to us about the science of belief and, just everything. We were all sitting there applying it to our own lives, right? So I want you to do that as I share my story with you. I want you to think about your story, similarities, differences, emotions that come up for you. So here we go. So this is my mom. If I put my late husband up there, I'll lose it. So we're going to concentrate on my mom. I saw my role as a family caregiver emerging as my aging mother sat at my dining room table. A portable file of medical bills and prescription drug information lay over the tabletop. My mother, with touch-tone phone in hand, was attempting to navigate a phone tree system to order prescription medications. Remember those days? Well, we still do it with, press 1, press 2, whatever. Before she could push the correct button, we heard the automated phone system say, "I'm sorry, I didn't recognize your choice." Over the next several hours, I noticed nothing had changed on the dining room table, and yet I realized everything was about to change for me. I was 35 years old. During the ensuing years, I accompanied my mother to a variety of health-related appointments and helped manage her medications, financial affairs, and medical bills. I found myself rushing around so I could then slow down when I was with her, trying to do the best that I could for her with little or no information. Mom was aggravated with her declining health and frustrated that she was losing control of her life. She vacillated between being grateful for our help and having the impression that her adult children were sometimes all against her. My own life was also in transition. My middle-aged husband was diagnosed with a terminal illness and on total disability. 3 of our 4 daughters were married, and I became a young grandmother. I continued to work full-time in my office at home in order to have the flexibility I needed to be everything to everyone. I learned the hard way that I was not invincible and spent a week in the hospital due to sheer exhaustion. I had become a completely burned out caregiver. My story is not unique. A kaleidoscope of various caregiving scenarios can be found in communities worldwide as families strive to care for aging loved ones. 2 questions warrant our thoughtful consideration, and they are, what can we do to support families in need and family caregivers, and how are we preparing to face unscheduled changes in our own lives and in the lives of our loved ones? When I was hospitalized, suddenly, I had a lot of time to think. And it became obvious very quickly that it had not been in anyone's best interest for me to shoulder the majority of the caregiving responsibilities alone. I had been serving my elderly mother and my family at the expense of my own health and well-being. Caregiving is something we do while fulfilling multiple other roles in our lives. We begin to notice needs. We pick up some tasks, and we just keep thinking, I can do just one more thing. I can fit this in. Darren, if you'd. So oftentimes, these are the scenarios that we see caregivers in. Either a peer-to-peer relationship or a multi-generational relationship. So older spouses and partners, a lot of times it's all about quality. And if it's adult children, it's about quantity. How much can what kinds of things can I do for mom or dad or grandma? So looking at both of these types of scenarios, older spouses often living together, eating together, doing life together. There's what one spouse often will do, and this is according to literature that we've got in aging, increase personal care for that other person. But the change to dependency is hard in a marriage relationship where you've been equals, and now one is becoming more dependent, especially when dementia, memory loss, things like that are involved, or even physical disabilities. It's really challenging. If it's the man, if it's the husband, that partner, and say there's a physical disability, harder for the wife physically, when it's opposite, a lot of times our husbands or partners maybe haven't been in the kitchen for a while, maybe haven't been doing housework, keeping up on just the day-to-day types of things, so that dependency is hard there. And older adults are not as likely to seek out support services, things that are outside the home. They keep things wrapped up inside. Whereas when adult children or grandchildren are involved, they're often not living with the care receiver. So they're in and out more. There's multiple demands on their time. They're at the busiest time of their lives. Extended family might be able to step in and offer some assistance, sometimes not. But this generation is much more willing to tap into outside resources, and they'll navigate a service delivery system. And it's as close as that thing that we all hold in our hands all the time. What's that? Our cell phone, right? And who do we go to? Say it. Google, right? Google or AI these days. Google, how can I find support for my mom at home? My mom has dementia. My dad this. Where can I find wheelchairs? Things like that, and answers come up, a plethora of answers come up. So, for example, with our older spouses and partners, that are living together, they will fix a meal, caregiver will fix a meal, and they sit down and they eat together. If you're in a multi-generational situation, maybe not living with your care receiver, you're dropping off 5 freezer meals or calling DoorDash. Okay, doing things like that. Neither one is right or wrong. It's just different how caregiving can look. It can show up in a variety of ways. I think the most important thing, let me see if I wanted to say that yet. I've forgotten. Okay. So let's move to the next slide, Darren. So as caregivers, have you ever heard yourself say, I'm so stressed out, or I'm so burned out? Do you know the difference? Stressed out is too much on your plate. Burned out, there's nothing left. When I landed in the hospital, nothing was left. I had given everything that I had, okay? So what is important to remember is that our bodies will react to our emotional health. So if we're stressed out or burned out, it's only a matter of time before it catches up to the body. And I think Dr. Manning emphasized that and put an exclamation point on that this morning in his presentation, how connected our bodies are to our emotions. So it's important to pay attention to that. Caregiving can have physical, emotional, and behavioral results out of us as a caregiver, reactions. But what's really important to remember also is that we are such a valuable resource. And when you think about it, it's not only to the person we're caring for, it's to the healthcare providers. We're often the only person that has experienced the entire trajectory. You go in for a doctor's appointment, you're in there for maybe 5, 10, 30 minutes. They get a snapshot. You've got the entire photo album on video, too. So your insights are really important. Well, if they are, we need to protect ourselves. We need to take care of ourselves in this process. So what I'm going to cover just in the time that we have today is 3 ways that we can improve our caregiving. And it'll be unique to each one of you because every one of our families are unique. We're going to talk about preparing, what we can do next, sharing the load, and then some community resources that are available. These are the things that I didn't know anything about. And what I want you to think in your minds is, what is the next right thing for me? Each one of you, it'll be different, okay? So let's go to the next slide, preparing. This is a conversation that nobody wants to have. Everybody avoids it, and yet it is one of the most important conversations that we can have. We've got some people at tables out here. Angel Advocates is one of them, and there might be another one that's out there that can help guide this process. The things that are important to know about, well, let me draw attention to the cartoon first. If you can't read the small writing, the Grim Reaper is standing standing at the desk of this gentleman here. And the gentleman says to the Grim Reaper, "My advance directive was for you not to show up." Well, that's how we live life, and that's okay until we don't do an advance directive. And you'll see your doctors talking about that, your providers talking about that more and more, how important it is to have an advance directive on hand. Durable powers of attorney, there's multiple types. I could spend my entire presentation talking about the different types of powers of attorney, the different types of trusts and wills and things like that. But know that these things are important. The Utah Commission on Aging, I don't have their website up here, but remember that, has the free Utah Advance Directive that anyone can download. It's in English and Spanish. It might have other languages. Since I've retired, I'm not sure. Utah Commission on Aging. Medicare. I was so grateful that my mom could teach me about Medicare when I was 35 years old, because that wasn't on my radar. I didn't know that the Area Agency on Aging has someone that will walk you through Medicare. That used to be Darren on the state level, who would train the people throughout the state. He did Medicare, I did Caregiver program for the state. And there is someone in your Area Agency on Aging that will help you through this enrollment period that's going on right now until December 15th. This is a complimentary service to you. Bring in the prescription drugs, bring in the health plan that you've got, sit down and talk with someone at the Area Agency on Aging, and they will bring up the website, help you compare plans. They won't choose for you, but they will help you navigate that. And that's a service that you can take advantage of. With this conversation, recognize that maybe you as the caregiver might not be the best person to have that conversation with the care receiver. Is there someone else in your family or outside that would be a good person to visit with your loved one about that? It doesn't have to be you. And the most important thing I think with that is to focus on the positives. What are their goals for later life care? How do they want to see later life work out for them? One of the ways you can do this is to go, or a family member, whoever, Mom, Dad, I just filled out this thing for myself, or I just set up my own will or my own trust, etc. And I just realized I don't know what you want. Can we talk? And recognize that that conversation happens over time. This is not a one and done. One and done feels very threatening, and it feels like end of life. Just like when people think about hospice, they think, I'm going to live more than 3 days. Well, that was the old way, that hospice was very short term. That is so not right. I mean, months and on and off if you need to. The same thing is true here. Make a soft plan of the what ifs that can happen. When I did an internship at Utah Valley Regional Medical Center when I was doing my undergrad, and this is what students look like when you don't finish when you're young. I went to school after my husband died and my kids were grown, so I'm not talking that many years ago. So anyway, I worked on the 4th floor in the orthopedic area where the older adults were sent who had fallen down the stairs in their home, who had broken their hip, who couldn't go back home, families all flying in from who knows where, trying to make decisions really quick. And so these conversations are important to have now, okay? So let's talk about, next slide, building a willing team, or getting other people to step in and help. When I landed in the hospital, this was my family. Mom's gonna die. I had an NG tube going down my throat because I wear my stress in my stomach, and so everything clammed up for a week. Mom's gonna die, Dad's gonna die, he was on chemo. And what do we do with Grandma? She's on 17 medications, we don't know anything, okay? That was not good. I still remember my brother standing at the foot of my bed, hospital bed, hand on his hip going, wow, sis, I guess you really do need help. And you know what that told me? I had been asking, but not effectively. So I had a week to think about this. Let's go to our next slide. And this is what I did. I asked the nurse for a blank sheet of paper. And I drew a line down the middle of it, and on one side I put down all the responsibilities that I had. On the other side, I put down all the people in our life and my mother's life. And I resisted the urge to leave anybody's name off of that list. Because what do we do as a caregiver? We go, oh, well, I can't ask my daughter. She's busy working full-time. Oh, I can't ask this person because they're busy, or this one lives too far away, or whatever. We've got so many stories that come right to us. All the names go down, okay? Then I put a star next to the 3 things that I wanted to keep control of, that I knew my mother trusted me the most with, and that meant the most to her. Her medications, her doctor appointments, her financial affairs, okay? I kept those. Everything else went up for grabs. And then, rudimentary as it was, I wish I still had that piece of paper. I showed it to everyone that was on that list. And I was amazed at how people started drawing lines and saying, I can do this, I can do that. They could choose. And it was a good fit for them and a good fit for me, instead of me in my stressed out voice saying, I can't do this anymore. Because what are we doing when we're projecting that? We're scaring them away. But if we come and we talk about choices, that works out better. Let's go to our next slide. So, Darren, go ahead and throw up I think there's 5 of them. So these are some things, let's see. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so these are some things that can start a family, even a family meeting conversation. This can happen over email. It can be on a Google Doc. It can be in person. You know, and invite people in private to think about these questions and their answers to them, and then have a discussion about it. Okay, so maybe not all the families on the same page. Maybe not everybody's anxious to help. Maybe you've got a brother, like I did, who was estranged from the situation that said, peace out. Or a sister that lived on the East Coast and was 3,000 miles away. But once they looked at these questions, then it was like, oh, well, I could do this and I could do that, looking at my list and looking at these questions. My brother, who was estranged from my mom, realized, oh, you mean I don't have to do personal care? I thought that's what you were asking me to do. No, but he would show up and buy a fan, a portable air conditioner. He and his sons moved my mom to Utah when my husband became more critical. We were in San Diego at the time. He did background types of things, okay? My sister on the East Coast began to call my mom more often, send her cute cards, got my mom into crafting. I had all this crafting, stuff, stationery and things like that, like I had time to do it. No, I could not pack it up and take it to my mom fast enough so that my mom and her could have this exchange together. So my sister's providing social support. My brother, who stood at the end of my bed, never left my side. And my mom died 2 years after my husband, and we cared for her together, until the end. You never know what can show up if we have those conversations. So let's go to the next slide. If you don't remember anything else from today, it's that website on the bottom right here, eldercare.acl.gov. MAG, Aging and Family Services, is your area agency on aging here in Utah County, Wasatch, and Summit. It is one of 13 area agencies on aging in the state of Utah. But what if grandma lives in Michigan or Rhode Island or Texas or somewhere like that? You go to this website, you type in a city and state or a zip code, and up pops all of your aging resources for that area. They've got the same programs. Caregiver support is part of the Older Americans Act. Jerry, who was emceeing earlier in the session, she started the caregiving program, really got it robust for MAG. But this program exists nationwide, and all of the resources that are there. So the whole goal behind the Older Americans Act and area agencies on aging, we call them AAAs. So you think of AAA, roadside service. This is your roadside service for aging, all things aging and caregiving. These people they know the stuff, they know the resources, they can point you in the right direction. Let's go to the next one. This is just a brief list of the types of programs that are available. The ones that are in green over here in the right-hand, your right-hand column, caregiver support, okay? But you can call and they have a resource guide. They've got a website that's amazing, but they've got these resource guides that have just been printed. We've got one for Utah County and the other one for Wasatch and Summit area. So all kinds of resources that are available. We talked about Medicare and prescription drug assistance. They can point you in the direction for veterans benefits. That's how I learned about the veterans benefits, was actually got connected with a state social worker who was able to get, a stipend, or anyway, I get a monthly check from the VA because my husband died as a result of Agent Orange, of a disease that was the #1 disease associated with Agent Orange. And so as a widow, I receive a benefit. It didn't go back to when he died, but At least it started a few years ago, and I am so grateful for that. How many of you are caring for someone who is maybe the spouse of a veteran or a veteran themselves? They can get you connected and get you some veteran benefits and care. The VA also has a caregiving website. Let me see, I'm going to skip some of those because I have a couple other slides on it. In-home services and care coordination can be, let's go to the next slide. So, specifically about the caregiver program, okay? The top 3 in green, everyone can access. Anyone and everyone can access those. The bottom 2, every area agency on aging is given a budget every year with X amount of dollars that they can allocate to a caregiver. The caregiver is the client, not the care receiver, the caregiver. You're the client. And it's based on a stress index, not first come, first serve. So when you call and you ask about the caregiver support program, it is not the time to be valiant. It is the time to tell how it really is. And there's, they fill out this thing, for the life of me, can't remember the name of it is. Anyway, and so you're assigned a stress index. As things change, call back and update it. If there's a waiting list, don't let that disturb you. Waiting lists move consistently all the time. Every area agency on aging handles things a little bit differently, but this is the core that is always available no matter what state you're in, wherever you're at. Supplemental services like emergency response buttons, grab bars, things like that, someone to come in and help you with that are available too. Let's go to the next slide. I talked to you just a little bit about Medicare, that they offer that one, so we're going to move past that. I'm just going to give you a few other slides of resources that were meaningful to me. So we've got a long-term care ombudsman and adult protective services. What is the difference? If you have a loved one that is in a facility or you're considering placing in a facility, your long-term care ombudsman has a list of all the facilities that are in your area. And if you say, this is what I'm looking for, they can't choose one for you or recommend one for you, but they can show you the ones that are available in your area. And to me, it's like going to buy a house. You're going to know the right fit when you walk in, okay? I remember when I was an ombudsman counseling someone who wanted to place their mother, I gave them this list, and I said, call me back. Tell me what you chose, you know. In my mind, I thought, I think I know which one she'll choose. Well, she did. She called me back, and she said, we chose this one. I thought she'd choose A. She chose C. I said, really? What was it about C that you like so much? She goes, oh, they have a piano, and the residents can play the piano anytime they want, and my mother loves to play the piano. I said, well, you didn't tell me that. So you never know. Okay, adult protective services. I promise I'm not touching anything on the bottom. Don't. Anyway, adult protective services. If you are concerned about any older adult that is neglecting themselves or a victim of abuse in any way, your adult protective services and your long-term care ombudsman for inside a facility are your confidential resource to get help in there. It's the batteries. Okay, it's not me. Okay. So while you're doing that, what's this? Oh, so I hold it like this? Okay.
Like, you have to hold it like this?
I have to hold it like this and then like turn myself around. Okay, let's go to the next slide. You need to multitask. Okay, a few of my other favorite resources. AARP. Darren is with AARP right now, and they have a caregiver guide that is wonderful. So and a website that is great too. So they've got excellent caregiver resources. VA Caregiver Support Program, this is the website for that one. Okay, and VA Benefit Counseling, I've given you the website for that. These slides, my understanding is, will be available to you, so you'll have these as well. Let's go one more. If you're caring for someone with disabilities, here's our disability unit with the state. Grandfamilies, if you are a grandparent caring for children, grandchildren, there's resources available for you as well. Through this agency, the Utah Department of Health and Human Services, this is on the state level, there's a brand new website up there with a plethora of resources that you can get into. It's called the Dementia one, but it's got a lot of other stuff in there too. I was looking through it the other day. It is amazing. So take the time to look through some of those. And do you still have a clicker?
Yep.
Okay. So, and one more. So how you feeling? Did you get a few in like 40 minutes? Like you can see how I could elaborate all day on this stuff. Let's go to the next one. Choose just the next right thing for you. And then the next will show up, and then the next. Some days it's easy, some days it's hard, but it's always possible. And hopefully each one of us will come out on the other end, just like Dr. Manning said, with all these positive memories in back of us. So thank you so much, and ask me any questions during lunch.